Hello and welcome back to the channel. So if you watched the previous video, you'll know that the Audi sold and I made a tidy little profit there. I uploaded all of the profit and costs of what that came out looking like, and also the hourly rate, which was really good, and that's what I factor in when I look at salvage cars. Obviously it's nice if I can make more than £100 an hour, but £100 an hour is what I want to try and achieve for my efforts. And I've moved on to another car. I'm still at mum's. Lots has gone on there. I've actually split with my partner, so we've moved out of the unit, so I'm not going to be going back there. Amicable split. He's actually bought a huge new project over in East Anglia because he wants somewhere to store all of his cars. I'm going to be doing some filming over there later on this year when he gets it finished, because he's got a rather nice car collection, which you'll find out. But anyway, so we split, and so I'm stuck here because I'm looking for actually a new unit. So what have I bought? The much maligned Evoque. I've also spent a lot of time researching and upgraded from a Samsung Note 20 Ultra to a nice GoPro setup with a Volta tripod and some nice Rode Wi-Fi lavalier mics. Anyway, so the Evoque. Why have I bought an Evoque? I've bought an Evoque because the wife really likes them. I really like the look of them. I like working on cars that I like the look of. But also this one particularly caught my eye because there's no bodywork damage and it's really, really clean. I'm going to show you around it in a minute. But also as well, they're very maligned because of the 2-litre Ingenium engine being not so good, with all of the issues it suffers from and the timing chain issues. So I thought, right, I'll give it a go. So this particular one's unrecorded. It was listed as mechanical. I got it for an absolute steal. It's fully loaded HSE on a 17 plate. It's actually late 16 on the reg, but it's listed as a 17 plate HSE 2-litre. I'll give you a look round it. It's really nice two-door, nice black wheels, no damage on the wheels whatsoever. Really nice and tidy bodywork wise. It's been really looked after. I'll just squeeze through here. The interior is really nice as well. A little bit of scuffing on the driver's seat, which I can repair. But apart from that, I've not got much bodywork to do on this one. It doesn't start. I've not scanned it yet. So I'm going to do full diagnostic on this. I'm going to run you through how I diagnose, where I start, put my Hercule Poirot head on. It's always exciting when you buy one of these. I try to get into the mind of the owner, what happened, you know, why it ended up at Copart, why did he give up on it, because it's not the sort of car in the condition it's in that I would have put through Copart. But then all people's circumstances are different, aren't they? Let's have a look under the bonnet. So I have had the bonnet open before, as you can see, nice and clean. Now what I did notice straight away, the airbox has been off, the bolt's missing for that. I also noticed, if you can see down here, there's a little gap there, so it looks like that I think it's part of the EGR, has been disconnected. This is missing, but it's actually in the boot. So on first, you know, look, nice clean engine bay, nothing particularly glaring going on here. The battery was completely dead and flat, so I've put a brand new AGM battery on it because I wanted to be ready for scanning. So let's pop inside and we'll run a first scan and see what we throw up on the scan. Okay, so we're inside now. As you can see, beautiful interior, lovely sports seats. It's pretty fully loaded, this Evoque. Engine light on. We've actually got 290 miles range, 79,200 mileage. So I've got my scanner connected, so let's fire it up and see what we come up with. Just go to my favourites, Land Rover. Try and do this right-handed. Just wait for that to load. Moment of truth. Let's see what our electronics jiggery pokery will find for us on this vehicle. Nearly done. Okay, so we've got 2 faults on the PCM, powertrain control module. Back in the day, that was called the ECU. For some reason, they started calling it the PCM, just to confuse people. Let's open it up and have a look. Interesting. Okay, so camshaft position sensor fault. That's going to be a relatively easy fix. But the interesting one is 064F. Now, I've actually seen that a lot of times before. I am heavily into motorsport, built 4 race cars myself. Sadly, it was back in the time when I was documenting race car builds on forums. Remember those forums? And not YouTube. So I didn't capture the process. I have got another race car build in mind, and I am going to take you through the whole journey of buying a salvage car and turning it into a race car, and then taking that, winning my first championship, he says optimistically. But that is something that I'm going to do as a sort of a subplot to this channel. The main part of the channel is obviously buying salvage, fixing them, you know, the passion and enjoyment out of taking something broken and, you know, selling it on to somebody and it being all nice and working, and ultimately, you know, providing me with a supplementary income to the other things that I do. So why have I seen that code before? Because on all of my race cars, I've had a Clio 182, I've had a Super Copper Mark II Cup car, I've had an Audi S3 Quattro, and I've had a Golf GTI Cup car. All of them I've had mapped because of the championship that I'm in, where you're only allowed 175 bhp per tonne at the wheels. So I've had to have them all mapped, and typically they've all been running on stock VAG, mainly VAG ECUs. And that code comes up a lot, because when you put a map on a stock ECU, you can get that code come up. But typically it means that there's been some kind of aftermarket activity performed on the ECU. So I'm actually going to take this ECU out because I don't know the history of this car, and ultimately put it back to stock map. If it has got some kind of dodgy map on there, or EGR delete or DPF delete, because I want to build this car and sell it as completely stock and not as modified. So if they had DPF deleted and, you know, hoiked out all the contents of the DPF or whatever, I'll replace the DPF and just suffer the cost of that. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm actually really pleased that there's only those 2 codes. The camshaft position sensor one might be a consequence of the ECU, but I'll find that out when I get the ECU back from the electronics boffins that I use, and you know, then I can plug that ECU back in, and the P064F code will be gone away. And if I've still got the 342 code, then I'll know that I need to investigate that further, either checking that sensor or just replacing it with a new one. They're actually not that expensive, those sensors, so I would probably, to save time, just do a modicum of investigation and then just put another sensor in it, and then see how we go. Right, so what I'm going to do next, I know the car doesn't start, because when I put the battery on it, I tried it. It does turn over, interestingly enough. There are not any mechanical janglings, clankings, or, you know, I was thinking non-runner, maybe the timing chains are loose, or they've snapped, or the guides are gone, and we've got pistons into rods. Funnily enough, part of me was actually hoping that was the case, because I've not done an engine rebuild on one of these, and I was actually looking forward to taking the engine and gearbox out and doing a full strip on the engine and showing you how I rebuild an engine. Having not done one of these engines before, I've done lots of other engines and lots of motorsport engines, but it's always nice to work on an engine that you ain't done before. But anyway, I might be thwarted, but the bank balance will be happy if I've been thwarted, so, and the wife will, because it means I'll be able to turn it around quicker, as opposed to spending 20 or 30 hours on an engine rebuild. So anyway, yeah, I shall set this camera up in the engine bay, and I'm going to take the ECU out, PCM, it's both in one unit on these cars, and then package that up and send it off to the electronics boffins. when that comes back, I shall plug it in and then we'll reconvene. So there you go, it's a Bosch. Doesn't look to be any damage to the wiring, but I mean, why would there be? There shouldn't be. Pinouts all look okay. ECU doesn't look like it's been apart. Certainly can't see any screwdriver wedges around the edge or anything. So if they have mapped it, or whatever is wrong with it, they probably coded it via computer or via the OBD port. But anyway, because that was so easy for me to do, you've literally seen how quick that was for me to do from start to finish. I'll get that sent off now, and then I'll reconvene on this car with you once I get it back, because once I get it back I can, you know, get rid of that code. And if that code was stopping the car starting, then it'll all start and I'll be really happy, and it'll be the easiest salvage fix I've ever done in my life, and we'll get it up for sale. It might hopefully even get rid of the camshaft position sensor error. But yeah, here's hoping, eh? So we'll reconvene in a week when that comes back and see how we go. Bad news. Got the ECU back. My man has checked it over. It did have a map on it and he's flashed it back to stock. Unfortunately we couldn't get rid of the dodgy software code P604F, I think it is, or 40F, I'd have to check. I think that is flashed to the hard memory so that the dealers know that the ECU has been tampered with, so probably the only way to get rid of that code would be to take it to Land Rover and get them to do a full software update. But anyway, it's been flashed. Problem is, car still don't start, still got the warning light on for the camshaft sensor. So before I go and waste 50 quid on a camshaft sensor, my mechanic Spidey Sense is telling me that actually it's not the camshaft sensor, and that the chain has stretched because the guides are failing and or have failed, and this is why the car ended up at Copart, because somebody has done some initial investigation on that and gone, yeah, nah, I'm not going to be bothered to be changing the timing chain on this. So I'm going to investigate that now. So I'm going to take the top end off so that I can have a look at the timing chain at the top, but I'm also going to give it a leak down test because I want to check the condition of the valves, the bores, the compressions. Not a compression check, but it will give me an idea of the compressions doing a leak down test, plus a load of other information as well, before I take the gearbox off, because taking the gearbox off on one of these on your drive is no small task. Fortunately for me, I'm quite used to taking gearboxes off. Being in motorsport, I've had my fair share of gearbox removes and replace in 2 hours in rainy cold paddocks at Snetterton and Donington and God knows where. So actually this is pretty much luxury because it's a beautiful day and it's not raining. But I'm going to do all my investigations first, and the leak down test, I'll show you how I do a leak down test. There's loads of tutorials on YouTube about that, but not many of them go really in depth about what you're doing and why you're doing it and what you're actually looking for. So I'll show you that all in detail, and I have a feeling that it's the timing chains that are going to need doing. I'm just hoping that it hasn't rammed a piston into a valve, because then it will be head off and head rebuild. Although in saying that, I can then show you how I rebuild a head on a bench in a garage around the back of my mum's, because I still haven't got a workshop yet. So this is all going to be fun, but I love it and I love what I'm doing, so we'll crack on. I'll set up and then sort of film the leak down test and then discuss that in detail once I've got it all set up, so I won't bother filming me setting it all up. So catch you on the flip side. Let me show you what we found. No timing chain. No wonder she won't start. completely missing. The bottom one's on, but the top one is missing in action. So what does that mean? I don't know what kind of interference fit these have, valves and pistons, but there's a strong possibility that that's pushed the piston into one or more valves. So I'm going to continue with the leak down test now. I've got that cover off and seen we actually haven't got a timing chain. Have to say, working on one of these for the first time, yeah, not the easiest of cars to work on. Everything is really crammed in, and there's like little hidden bolts, tiny little bolts holding random brackets all over the place. So I'm not surprised that people, end up with this issue and then just sack the car off and swerve it off to Copart. But hey ho. So worst case scenario is worst case scenario is it's rammed the valves into the top of the pistons, and it's going to need complete head rework, possibly damage the piston as well, which will be engine out, crank out, rods out, source pistons, new rings, rehone the block. I mean, I'm going worst case scenario here. Best case scenario is the timing chain. No, even that wouldn't work, would it? Because if the timing chain came off while he was driving, the cams are going to stop in the position that they're in. I don't know, I could be lucky. There might be a little bit of a gap there and the pistons rotate merrily and don't hit the valves. I mean, I've spun it over myself and it spins over really merrily. There's no sound of it hitting any valves. So there's either a really nice gap there between the top of the piston and the valves when they're open, or the valves were on, all of them on the closing or closed stroke when the chain came off, and the pistons are just going to rotate merrily and never ever hit them anyway. That's the one that I'm hoping for. So a leak down test will tell me that. I shall crack on doing the leak down test now, and I'll actually film that and show you doing it, the big reveal. And I'm going to have to buy some timing tools for this now and a complete timing chain kit, so I'll get those ordered today as well. Now I know that that's what I need. And onwards and upwards. Cold, frosty morning, and I'm back on the Evoque, and I slight change of plan. Yes, I am going to still give it a leak down test, although I had a thought last night, and because the timing chain is completely missing, the top timing chain, God knows where that is, I'm hoping it's just fallen down into the sump. I've got a lot of theories on that. I mean, it might be that they took that cover off and, I don't know, removed the chain, but what I'm thinking is the chain let go at speed? So we've got bent valves, maybe damaged head, maybe damaged pistons. So rather than going straight in and doing a leak down test, it's actually, I'm going to change direction slightly and take the cam cover off, check the cams, check the lifters, take the cams out, and then I'll be able to see if any of the valves are bent. I do still want to give it a leak down test because I want to check the condition of the bores. But yeah, so that's the route that I'm going to go. I'm probably going to have to take the inlet manifold off, which on this car, because it's such a moronic design with how much access they give you, is like not the easiest job. I'll just show you. So you've got all those bolts there, which you can get at, but then you've got a whole set of bolts along there underneath, which you can't see at all. So I get my trusty mirror on a stick with lights, and then what I can do is I can put that down there and see each bolt in turn and then get my socket on it. You could also do that with a bore scope, but I'll use my mirror on a stick to do that. I might not have to take the inlet manifold off. It depends what I find when I take the cam cover off, which I'm going to do now. Right, so let's get cracking on taking that off and see what we find. Also, this loom is a pain in the arse. because I wanted to move all the loom out of the way, but it's connected all the way around the back onto the turbo with one of the turbo sensors. So I'm probably going to have to go underneath the car and remove that if I actually want to move this out of the way, but I'll only move that out of the way if I'm going to take the head off. So okay, let's get cracking, get these injectors out and get this cam cover off this morning. Right, so taking the injectors out, what you can see here is you probably can't see that, I've labelled cylinder 1 number 1 and cylinder 4 over here number 4. I always call cylinder 1 the pulley end, not the gearbox end, and I've put a dot on each injector because I like to put things back where they came out. Makes your life a lot easier if you do that and label stuff up. These are not too tight, a little bit stiff. Don't think this has ever been out, to be honest, but judging by how stiff that was, I don't think it has. Now there's two ways you can do a leak down test on a diesel engine. You can do it through, if you've got the right adapters that is, you can do it through these injector ports, or you can take this inlet manifold off and do it through the glow plugs. The glow plugs is the more dangerous route because every engine known to man typically has nightmare glow plugs to get out. Very easy to break them and then you end up in a whole heap of pain. So this one I removed earlier. Look at that. Now these are going to be stiff, so what I like to do is, so I'll just take that pipe off there to give me a bit of room, and again with these pipes I like to keep them all together because it's easy to mix them up, and it makes your life a little bit more difficult knowing which one it came off, because they're all different shapes and sizes. And then put my big spanner on and give it a little turn. There you go. Now, there's usually a load of crud that falls off these injectors and falls down the inlet hole. It's typically only carbon off the end, so you don't have to worry about it too much getting on the piston. Put the pipe back on so I've got it with the right injector, and put the injector on the bench. Move on to the next one. Sometimes injectors can be an absolute bloody nightmare to get out. I've got a pneumatic hammer tool to get the more difficult ones out. Luckily for me today, these are playing ball. Yeah, just as he says that. Well, with a lot of WD-40 penetrant and waggling backwards and forwards, I managed to get it out, and that's why they get stuck. See all that rust there? They just rust up and get stuck in place when they've been in the car or the vehicle for a long time. But anyway, that one's out, so I can continue now. Now I can continue with taking off the cam cover. I just need to quickly consult my manual to see what the order is for taking these off, and then I'll be right back and take them off. So the cam cover bolts don't come off in any particular order, which is cool. I'm sort of excited, is excited the wrong word, to see what I'm going to find when I get this cam cover off. I'll be amazed if we've not got bent valves, and then we're going to be really going down the rabbit hole with this, because then I'm going to have to take the turbo off, inlet manifold, exhaust manifold, all this wiring, get the head off, fix the bent valves, take it from there, gearbox off. And if you don't really know what you're doing, I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing, I've never worked on one before, so this is all new to me, techniques, having to refer to manuals. Normally, I mean, my bread and butter is VAG stuff, BMWs and VAG, particularly Audis, but you only have to work on one of these once and then you know all the little techniques and where all the little hidden clips are and all the bolts that are difficult to find. Yes, this bolt and this bolt So that is bolted to the cam cover. Fantastic. So that means I've got to take that off to get the bloody cam cover off. So I've got to take all that off, this, to get this off. Okay. My 8mm was here, and it's just rolled down there and disappeared into the front end somewhere. I have no idea where that's gone. What I need is a little bendy magnet to get down in there. This is when knowledge comes into play, because had I worked on one of these before, I would know that that needs to come off, and I'd also know how to take it off, but I don't know how to take it off. So you end up doing what's called the mechanic's stare, where you just stare at something for about half an hour trying to figure out what's connected to it and what needs to actually come off to get the bloody thing off, which is connected down there. These are definitely not the easiest cars to work on. I can't believe I'm having to take this off just because of those two brackets there to get the cam cover off. All those are done. I'm doing my mechanic's stare again. Little gentle tap on the end. I think that was the sound of success. Right, she's out. That one looks all right. Lobes are all right. Spinning nice and freely, not grabbing up anywhere. A little bit of wear on the cam lobes. I thought that was a crack then, but it wasn't. Sounds a bit rough. That one. Check the bearings anyway when I get the caps off, but I'll do that on the bench. But the cams look okay, and they're certainly not snapped or broken. So I'll put this on the bench. Oh, well, look at that, look. There you go. So we have two broken followers from what I can see. Needle roller bearings all over the bloody shop. 3 broken followers. So we've got 1 broken follower there, 1 there, 1 on the end, and see those needle rollers down there that have come out of that broken follower. So there's going to be needle rollers all over the show. So yeah, head off then. We've definitely got bent valves, even though all those valves actually look like they're seated and at the top. So potentially I'm going to have to change all of these rockers, because I don't know which ones have banged and which ones have been stressed and which ones are okay now. I made a note in my diary. It simply said bugger. Right, so I'm going to move on to the next stage then, which is marking up all these ones which are broken on the head, so I know, and take the inlet manifold off, take the exhaust manifold off, get the head off, get the gearbox off, get the sump off, take the engine out. I think I need a coffee because it's going to be a long day. I've got a love-hate relationship with Range Rover. I love the car, but man, they are so poorly designed from a mechanic's perspective. You won't believe how much I've had to take off this car to get the head off. Doing it in situ is an absolute nightmare. So anyway, what have I taken off? I've taken off complete front end, both wheel arch liners both sides. I've taken off and dropped the steering rack. I've taken off over there the anti-roll bar, as you can see. I've taken both CV joints and half shafts out. I've taken the suspension off one side. I've taken the wishbones and the hubs off both sides. There's a story to tell just in those. There's the turbo. This is everything that's come out of the engine bay. So I came to take the hubs off. Pretty straightforward job. Undo the pinch bolt at the bottom. Oh yeah, of course, it's like an Audi. They've put a steel pinch bolt in an aluminium hub with no grease or silicone on it or anything. the steel has interacted with the aluminium, it's corroded around it, and it's welded in. So you can't get the pinch bolt out. And I knew that if I tried to undo that pinch bolt, it was just going to snap off. So what I decided to do is take the shock out of the top of the hub, undo the wishbone, front and rear, out of the subframe. Second problem, the half shafts were welded in to the bearings in there. Doing anything for the first time is always difficult, and taking stuff off is always difficult because everything's tight. Putting it all back together is much easier if you can remember where all this stuff goes. That's why I've laid it out like that, with all the bolts, with everything, because if you weren't organised with one of these cars, oh my god, you'd have a nightmare when it came to putting it back together. So as you know, we smashed the rockers on 2 and 4 on the exhaust side, but when you look at the pistons, all 8 valves kissed the pistons. So what I've done is I've bought 8 new exhaust valves. The inlet valves, these are the inlet valves, they never touched at all on the pistons, so it's literally just kissed all of the exhaust valves and left the inlet valves alone. The head looks fine, it's perfectly flat, perfectly straight, it's not warped. Because I've got it out, I've taken all of the glow plugs out, and I'm going to replace those so that whoever I sell it to isn't going to have that ball ache of a job. 3 of them came out really easily, and the 4th one, yeah, of course, there's always one. Sod's law, isn't it? There's always one. It was an absolute nightmare. I left it soaking in penetration fluid overnight, and then this morning it came out, so I was really lucky. But I did break the tip off it, so I am going to replace all 4 of those. My next job is I've got to lap all the valves in. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to record the whole process, but basically with grinding lapping paste, I've got to lap that surface into the seat to make a perfect seal. And then when it's made a perfect seal, I'm going to use Engineer's Blue to check the seal quality, which again I'll show you how I do that. If I bring you over to the car, can you see where the valves have kissed the pistons? There and there, and on that one, and on that one, but there's nothing at all on the inlet side on all 4 pistons, so just those very light kisses, indentations on the exhaust side. So there is damage on those pistons. Do you have to replace those pistons? No, you don't. Because of the way this engine is designed, those pistons are really chunky. You've got over 10 millimetres of solid aluminium before the top ring, and the pistons themselves are really solid as well. If the valves were angled on this engine, the valves are vertical. So when the piston comes up, it meets a vertical valve. Energy follows the path of least resistance. The piston obviously keeps going, and the valve just goes straight up and snaps the rocker, which is the easiest thing for it to do. And obviously in doing that, it leaves that little indentation on the top of the piston. With an angled valve head, it's a whole different scenario. The piston comes up, it meets the valve that's open, it doesn't push the valve back in, it bends it up, mashes it into the top of the head, mashes it into the piston, and you're into a whole load of pain of replacing the cylinder head and replacing the valves and replacing the damaged pistons as well. So on this, we've got away with it because of the way it's designed. I'm not bothered at all about those indents in the top of the pistons. It won't make any difference whatsoever to the running of the car. You can do the same on some BMWs as well. So we've had some misfortune with it knackering the valves, but we've also had some good luck in, you know, the way that the engine is designed and with the valves being vertical. I'm now going to set up and start lapping in these valves on the head. It's going to take me about 2 to 3 hours. I'll see you shortly. Onwards and up, and slip a little bit further down the rabbit hole with Alice. Anyway, let me crack on and set this head up for valve lapping, and I'll speak to you soon.